Call to order the meeting of the Rutherford County Public Safety Committee for Monday evening, February the 24th, 2025. We'll begin with the approval of our minutes, and I'll ask that the Vice Chairman will take care of that.
Chairman Reed, I reviewed the minutes, found them all to be in order. Make a motion to approve as mailed.
Have a motion to approve our minutes.
Second.
Have a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? They have been approved. Any public comments at this time? No, sir. No public comments, so we'll be moving right on. This evening, if you'll notice on our agenda, we have Forensic Center discussion. Interesting, you know, how many times we have discussed a forensic center in Rutherford County. 12th year as a county commissioner, and going all the way back to 2014, I've heard of a forensic center for Rutherford County. And I began on the Public Safety Committee when I came here as a commissioner. And I always wondered about that fact about the forensic center and how we did that, especially when I started as a public safety committee member. I always asked, well, where is the morgue? We have no morgue. Quite interesting as we went along. I always heard that discussion, and then we dropped into the next 4 years, and we went about trying to organize an effort to build a forensic center. About it, I've talked about it, and then I'd have people come to me and ask, what in the world is a forensic center? What do they do there? Some of them I explained to them, and they still didn't. Yes, I've been one that's thought about a forensic center, and I've been one that's worked at an effort to bring one to Rutherford County. Something that's been heavy on my mind ever since 2020. Never forget that March day, and I see some members that are sitting in here that remember that day when we all met right back here on these seats where you are sitting back here. And the determination was made, the fact that
Chairman, sorry about that. I'm getting some text messages asking if you can turn your microphone on. They said it's going in and out live. And then also, I was going to just quickly ask, I know Commissioner Beverly is like a few minutes away.
He's on the way.
So I didn't know if we can just move the discussion down a little bit until he gets here, or just however you want to do it.
If you'll notice, I'm killing time right now. I've got it right here. He is on the way, and I'm trying to give him some time. But I'm also trying to make some information available to you. Don't think I'm cutting him short either, because I've heard my speech time and time again. But what I'm trying to say is that we realized then, that time, I was chairman at that time, that we were in a situation here in Rutherford County where we need to do something. So tonight we're going to go into a forensic center discussion. And a lot of work has gone back into it from the time at the very beginning, the first white pages that we had, and to where we are right now and where we're wanting to go forward here now. Now, you are the commissioners that tonight will make that discussion available. Now, I can wait just a few more minutes for Commissioner Beverly if you want to hold out for him. Commissioner Oliver, be here this evening, flu, and we graciously allowed her not to be in attendance this evening. She is watching. So I wanted to let you know that. But this is, what do you think? Do you want to wait just a, no? There he comes.
I apologize. It's going to be afternoon on the witness.
So he's here, so we have the full group here, so we'll begin our discussion of into the Forensic Center discussion. In fact, we're going to allow at this time to have Eric Hennessy to come forward. We were just sitting back there talking about his name. But we're going to ask Eric Hennessy to come forward this time, and he has comments and be working with our discussion tonight. So, Eric?
I'm Eric Hennessy, Chief of Staff. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for having us here this evening. We're here tonight to talk about the Forensic Center. I'm standing before you on behalf of the Mayor's Office, but don't think of this as just another project of the Mayor's Office. It is much larger than that. The State of Tennessee Department of Health has identified this as a great need. I'm sure you all saw that in the report that Ms. Martin handed out at the last County Commission meeting. All public safety departments of the county support the Forensic Center, as well as different municipalities within the county. The support's not only coming from our county, it's also coming from counties outside of Rutherford County who support these efforts. Chairman, with your approval, I will be asking for Denise Martin and Brian Gaither to come up. These two individuals live with the burdens of not having a forensic center in Rutherford County every single day and can address those burdens much better than I can. After Ms. Martin and Mr. Gaither have an opportunity to speak, we will have KSA come up from Ron and Tyrone, and they will give you a presentation of the actual design of the building as well as talk about cost. Commissioners, I know we've heard this for years and years and years. I think I've heard as much as it's gone back for 15 years of individuals within this county trying to get a forensic center. Tonight, I believe we're going to provide you with a little bit of different information, maybe a little bit more information than you've previously heard in the discussions, at least the ones that I've been involved in. At the conclusion of the presentation by KSA and Ms. Martin and Mr. Gaither, I will have some concluding remarks and be requesting that we have a motion to present this forward with a favorable recommendation. I turn it over to Ms. Martin.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak with you all again. Before I present tonight, I would like to take a step back and provide you with my credentials. I don't believe that all of you may know why I can speak to this topic. I started in this field in 1998, over 25 years ago. I attained my bachelor's degree with a major in psychology and minors in criminology and criminal justice at MTSU, which is where I first studied forensics and when I first became involved with the work at the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, initially as a forensic anthropology student. I started work at the Middle Tennessee Forensic Center in the early 2000s, first as a forensic technician and then as a medical legal death investigator. I worked my way up to the position of Director of Technical Services, a position I held for several years, overseeing the Forensic Tech Department and the autopsy suite operations. Next, I was promoted to Director of both Technical Services and Investigation Divisions, a position I held for over 10 years. During this time, I attained my Master's of Criminal Justice graduate degree from MTSU, graduating in 2011. I then attended law school and attained my JD in 2015, passing the bar exam that same year. I'm admitted to practice in both Tennessee state and federal district courts. I left the Forensic Center in 2016 to practice law full-time as a civil litigation attorney with a focus on medical and healthcare cases. And in 2018, I started work in the Office of the Tennessee State Chief Medical Examiner as a state medical legal death investigator, involved in training of county medical examiners and their investigators, among other state issues. In March 2020, I accepted a part-time position as the death investigator instructor for the Rutherford County Medical Examiner's Office within EMS, with the successful aim of bringing the EMS supervisors up to state and national standards. This part-time position quickly developed into the need for a full-time position, that of Supervisor of Death Investigations, the position I currently hold. This was also the time I first learned that Rutherford County doesn't even have a county morgue, and still does not to this day. I successfully applied for a grant to convert the Salem EMS station into a formal Rutherford County office, Rutherford County Medical Examiner's Office, I apologize, with a fully equipped post-mortem external, meaning non-autopsy examination room. I later obtained a second grant to hire 2 experienced and credentialed full-time medical legal death investigators, which was the first for Rutherford County. I am board certified through the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators. I'm also a medical legal death investigator within the Disaster Mortuary Operation Response Team, DMORT, Region 4, as an intermittent federal employee within the National Disaster Medical System. I'm not telling you all of that just to brag. I want you to understand that I have comprehensive experience in this field, operations of a regional forensic center, and their statutory requirements. I have watched this county grow from a rural county to the 4th largest by population, now a mainly urban county that is experiencing metro issues. Our county borders Metro Nashville-Davidson County, so it should be no surprise that violent crime, drugs, and other such concerns inevitably, but unfortunately, spill over into our county. As our population grows, so do the number of deaths. In turn, so do our number of autopsies and medical legal death investigations. Former EMS director and then county coroner Carl Hudgens recognized the need to plan for a forensic center in this county over 15 years ago. I do hope that you've all taken the opportunity to read and digest the contents of the Tennessee Department of Health contracted for feasibility study that was distributed at the last commission meeting. This study was performed and published by an independent, unbiased, neutral third party, a panel of experts. Having read this study, you should be in no doubt that we are not alone in the firm belief that Rutherford County should have their own regional forensic center at this time. As page 3 of that study states, all authority rests at the county level for medical legal death investigations in the state of Tennessee, end quote. It is a county responsibility to ensure that our deaths are being investigated appropriately and thoroughly, and that forensic autopsies are being appropriately and accurately performed. The report indicated and documented concerns relating to the capacity of the Middle Tennessee Forensic Center, delays in an examination which leads to potential for deterioration of the body and evidence degradation, concerns about high daily caseload, limited storage, and inability to handle a mass fatality incident. As highlighted on page 26, and I quote, the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center projected to serve a population of nearly, now over 3.7 million, falls significantly below SWIG MDI recommendations. The current facility sized at 20,000 square foot is far below the recommended 72,682 square foot. It lacks adequate autopsy space, room space, body storage capacity, and autopsy stations, end quote. These issues, along with documented concern for insufficient staffing of the facility, the assessment team concluded that, I quote, these deficiencies pose a critical vulnerability in the provision of autopsy services in the Middle Tennessee region, end quote. For reference, the SWIG MDI is the Scientific Working Group for Medical Legal Death Investigation within NIST, or the National Institute of Standards and Technology. The respected research paper referenced to and utilized in the research and findings of the feasibility study was authored and approved by past and present presidents of the National Association of Medical Examiners, as well as other members, officers, and leadership of NAME, ABMDI, and IACME, all accrediting bodies of forensic facilities and their staff. The study goes on to state on page 19 that, quoting, notably, among the top 5 most populous counties, Rutherford County stands apart as the sole jurisdiction that lacks its own forensic center, end quote. And the study concluded on page 29 that, I quote, the assessment team strongly believes that Tennessee urgently requires at least one additional regional forensic center to alleviate the strain faced by the Middle Tennessee RFC. Ideally, this facility would be situated in Rutherford County, end quote. Many different agencies and departments within the county and its municipalities are impacted by or involved in death investigations and forensics. They have vocalized support for the need and necessity of a Rutherford County Forensic Center. In fact, the Rutherford County Forensic Center is supported by the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, Rutherford County EMS, the Rutherford County Fire Marshal's Office within Rutherford County Fire and Rescue, Murfreesboro Police Department, Rutherford County Emergency Management, the Smyrna Police Chief, Jason Irvin, and the Smyrna Town Council. The county and municipal agencies have stressed current challenges affecting productivity, travel time to and from Nashville, burdening overtime budgets, the need to become a priority instead of jostling for position amongst 63 counties, and issues with communication that is detrimental to case investigations, to name a few. Issues that would be resolved with a Rutherford County Forensic Center. The center would prioritize Rutherford County cases. Each regional forensic center in Tennessee also serves as the medical examiner's office for that jurisdictional county in which it is located. Each regional forensic center is therefore expected to prioritize its own county's autopsies and investigations. Unfortunately for Rutherford County and 2/3 of the state, we do not currently have that priority. We have received written support from many counties' medical examiners, a Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, the District Attorney's Office, hospitals, and institutes of higher education. Having a Rutherford County Center would immediately unburden our incredibly busy EMS service and its shift supervisors of performing work that is outside of its emergency medicine mission, that of saving lives and provision of emergency medical care. In fact, I'll ask our Director, Brian Gaither, speak to this issue in a little bit more detail. Thank you.
Good evening. So currently our EMS supervisors spend a significant amount of time conducting death investigations due to lack of 24-hour medical examiner investigative coverage. While these responsibilities are part of their job description, it's not their primary role, nor is it where their training and focus should be. Our supervisors are first and foremost EMS providers dedicated to saving lives and providing emergency medical care. When they are tied up investigating deaths, often for hours, it not only pulls them away from their primary duties, but it also adds unnecessary stress, contributes to burnout and potential PTSD. Additionally, because death investigations are not their main responsibility, there's a risk that these cases may not receive the same level of thoroughness that a full-time trained investigator would provide. This is not a reflection on our supervisors' dedication, but rather an indication that we need a more specialized approach. A forensic center in Rutherford County would alleviate this burden, ensuring that death investigations are handled by experts while allowing our EMS providers to focus on what they do best. That's caring for the living. It would also improve the quality and efficiency of the forensic work in our community, benefiting law enforcement, public health, and the families affected by these tragedies.
I will conclude with a brief discussion on costs. There are real and hidden costs involved. Currently, we're expending almost $1 million on vendor autopsy service, including transportation out of the county. This number will continue to increase, not only due to our continued population growth, but also on fee increases from the for-profit company who operates the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center and due to transportation cost increases. As you should recall, we have had 4 significant fee increases within 4 years to autopsy fees, with little notice and mid-fiscal year each time. We are anticipating another one soon based on historical regularity. As a reminder, the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center currently charges $2,500 per autopsy, compared to $1,900, for example, charged by Knox County's Regional Forensic Center. The cost of the required county-level medical examiner's office is approximately $500,000 when it's fully staffed. The Rutherford County Regional Forensic Center would combine those 2 services, that of autopsy service and our medical examiner's office, effectively absorbing the medical examiner office and moving staff, offices, and equipment into that facility. Additional new hire foundational staff would include an initial forensic pathologist, two forensic technicians, and an administrative assistant, total cost of up to around $500,000, for a total of approximately $1 million plus the utilities, compared to the approximately $1.5 million being spent on sending our cases out of county. Other cost reimbursement would be available from the state, including $150 per autopsy, $1,250 per infant autopsy, and a toxicology reimbursement share, amongst other things. We would immediately see this annual cost savings of hundreds of thousands of dollars, estimated from a low of around $300 up to $500,000 annually. If the county then offers service to other counties, while staff would be added, of course, additional revenue from the autopsy fee service would be realized, offsetting significant operational costs. These are just surface level costs, however. The hidden costs we currently incur should not be ignored. Overtime is incurred by law enforcement and other agency investigators currently having to travel through heavy traffic to and from the Nashville Middle Tennessee facility. Autopsy scheduling issues caused by Nashville's high daily caseload and our lower priority level, causing law enforcement officers to often miss being present at the exam or having to wait sometimes all day. Stilted communication regarding case findings and progress, a real cost to our investigations and to our families, both as relates to peace of mind and closure of estates. The cost passed on to families due to the local funeral homes having to travel to North Nashville and transport decedents' remains back home to our county for final arrangements. And the cost to legal next of kin who are being charged for autopsy, investigative, and toxicology reports. The hidden cost to our EMS of the hours its supervisors are having to dedicate to death investigation instead of emergency medicine, and the cost to our judicial system when we consider the quality and timeliness of reports. The cost savings are significant. The Rutherford County Regional Forensic Center project would directly benefit the budget and be fiscally responsible. I will end with a quote from the original white paper that was drafted over 10 years ago, which continues to be pertinent today. A Rutherford County Regional Forensic Center would provide, I quote, Rutherford and surrounding counties with a long-term, sustainable, cost-effective means of providing medical legal autopsy service for a rapidly growing population. Thank you, and I'll pass the conversation on to our KSA Design and Architectural team.
So I think we've laid out some of the problems and why we're here. Now we want to show you what the future may look like. So KSA, if y'all would come up and give us that presentation.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to be here. Thank you very much for allowing us to be here.
Okay, great. Thank you all for having us. Good evening. My name is Tyrone Bunyan. I am the project architect and project manager for Klein Sweeney Architects. We are the design team with the firm. And so we'll talk to you a little bit about the design of the building. We are the principal architects on the project. We had a consultant firm, MWL. They specialize in pathology facilities as well as forensics labs and medical examiners facilities. So they helped us to put together this facility for you all, and it's our pleasure to talk to you about it tonight. So thank you for having us. So I want to talk a little bit about the facility. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Ron.
I'm Ron Cosentino, senior architect at the firm. I've been heavily involved in this project from the beginning. Tyrone has been working on this project throughout, and I've assisted him. My experience is extensive. I've been an architect for many, many years, and I think you'll appreciate what we've done here. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. So let's talk about the facility. So the facility, what we have is about 15,000 square feet approximately of space for the people to use. We're looking at about 7,700 square feet of autopsy theater and about 4,400 square feet of administrative labs as well as, administrative facilities and office facilities. This can go to the next slide. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the site. The Forensic Center is the catalyst building for a larger complex that Rutherford County sees happening, but we're going to talk mostly about the Forensic Center today. That's what you see there is the building in blue. It's what you see to the east of the site is a proposed office building as well as an EMS bay building. But to the south, there's the county clerk. And what you see is we're proposing a rearrangement of the site to separate the clearance for certain official people to come in and out of the building. So towards the north of the site, we have the guest entry, and towards the south of the site, you have the staff building, the staff entry for the pathologist. That's about it for this one. We can go to the next slide. There you go. So if you look at the floor plan, what you see here is basically a clean separation between the administrative wing and the pathologist wing, or the autopsy theater is what we call it. On the administrative side, we have facilities for offices. We have a conference room, a space for family meetings for the family and grieving, and then we also have areas for forensics investigation. On the pathologist side, we have a complex for autopsies to be done. And to the south, we have the Sally Port, which will drop off areas for the decedents as well as the staff entry, which is a secured parking area. So we think that's a good idea to have that secured, separated off for the staff. Ron is going to talk a little bit about the systems for the buildings.
The systems for this building are very specific. In one sense, we're dealing with not ordinary situations. We're dealing with the morgue situation. And how do you deal with that in terms of area, flow, airflow, things like that? The other thing is the equipment that's in this building. We have a consultant, MWL, who specializes in this. They do nothing else. They only do this type of facility. They've done probably thousands across the United States. They are specialists in this. They select equipment. They select how it functions. They know the space requirements for it, and they know the characteristics of the fluids and things that are going to be taking place in this building. One of the things you'll notice is that there's a separation, clear separation, of that orange area, which is the autopsy area, and the light blue area, which is the office space. What happens in these spaces is very important in terms of airflow. For instance, in the office space, typical office has air conditioning, it has heating. So you have air circulation that goes through, and it is heated and cooled. No particular problems with that. On the autopsy side, you have odors, you have other things that are happening as chemicals in the space. So what is designed there is a 100% exhaust system. So all of the air in that room and that entire facility side gets exhausted. Well, we just don't let it exhaust out the side wall. It goes up to the roof, and it's propelled upward 50 feet, where winds will carry it and disperse the odors or whatever else comes out of that autopsy area. Now, once you're exhausting air out of a space, you need to supply air. And so there are rooftop units that will supply fresh air, which is then heated and cooled. And so we have 100% exhaust and 100% supply. The equipment, this HVAC equipment is very specific to this autopsy facility. Another thing that's very important is the location of the supply of air and the exhaust of air. That's all been calculated and worked out in these drawings. The other thing is the type of equipment that's used in the lab. Working with Denise, MWL has worked out specifically the type of equipment that's needed. And I think if you take a look, you'll see there's clean separation. The other thing is the Sally port, which is for the hearse to come in, is separated both for air supply and return and also for security. So someone that comes in there on the hearse, driving the hearse comes in, they only have access to the cooler, nothing else within that whole facility. So it's very well planned. I think that covers the equipment area.
We can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so what we're looking at here is a phasing out that I mentioned before of the building. The initial building will be about 15,000 square feet approximately, but we have planned for an expansion in the future. So what you're seeing to what would be the plan west of the site is the expansion of the autopsy space. I know that Rutherford County has a goal of having so many autopsies done a year. The goal also is to expand and have, in the future, possibly even more autopsies done, and seeing this as a place in the Middle Tennessee where a lot of people can get the autopsies completed. So that's what's shown here, an expansion in the near future. You can go to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about the architecture. The design of the architecture is meant to embody the kind of the minimalistic, scientific feel of it. One of the design challenges that we had was that because it is an autopsy place and that there's a scientific level to it, we wanted to minimize the amount of fenestration or windows or glazing that's going to be in the building. So that proved a design challenge, but I think the design team handled it quite cleverly. You can see on the let's see here, on the bottom right illustration there, the windows are kept high. They're more narrow to allow just a little bit of natural light in, but also keep the level of privacy that is for the autopsies that are taking place in the facility. Kind of moving clockwise around the building. At the top left, you're seeing a outdoor space for staff members. That's for eating. It's a nice gathering space. That's what we wanted to have a homey feel of to kind of separate from the workplace. So you see that there. The entry, as there in the top right, that is the lobby entrance. This is not the staff entrance. This will be for families that are coming, the bereaved, coming in. It's for the guest visitors area on the north part of the site. Bottom left, the Sally port, which Ron mentioned, dropping off of the decedent. And then you have the staff entry. And then in the bottom right, that is the overall front facade of the building with the lobby. And you see, of course, the lab space or the autopsy theater to the far left or the far west side of the building. Again, minimal materials, kind of a copper finish and kind of this modernized brick. So that's what we were going for the building. Pass it on to you. Go to the next slide. Go ahead, Ron.
This slide shows an approximate breakdown of the cost. If you take a look, we've outlined lump sum general conditions. This is basically from the contractor, which is the a CM at risk. That's the type of contract that's been worked out. You'll see that there's the building, the allowances, lab equipment, all spelled out quite clearly, building permit and so forth coming down the line. I have to point out also, you'll see there's a owner-controlled contingency for construction and design, 5%, $783,000 and change. That is there in the event that a condition comes up where there's extra monies that are needed for a particular thing. And that could happen where maybe a particular material is not available, we have to switch to a different material, and so there may be some additional cost. That money is owner-controlled, not contractor-controlled. Then you get down to payments, performance bond, contractor's fees. These are typical expenses on any contract. Furniture, low voltage. The low voltage is for security, door controls, cameras, things of that nature. When you come down to the total, including fee and low voltage, it's FF&E, I'm sorry, and that would be $15,500,000. That is approximately where we're at with that. If you take into account the value engineering, which is a thing that happens when contractors and the architects review different products, different methods of putting things together, there's suggestions. Why don't we do this? That'll save some money. Let's change that material to something else. We save some more money. So that came up to $1.1 million. So those are what we call VEs, or value engineered. When we take a look at the total here, projected total including value engineered, $15 million. And I must say that that is not to be exceeded, and it'll be probably a little much lower than that. What happens in this case is that we have contractors and subcontractors evaluating. They're looking at this top to bottom. They're looking at materials, they're looking at supplies, and what they're doing is coming up with some numbers. They're going to different subcontractors so that we are still coming up with some numbers, but I can tell you that it's not going to exceed the $15 million. And I think that's about all I have, unless you have something else.
Thank you.
Real quickly, square footage cost. We've been looking at square footage cost, especially with schools. What's that number?
That number, when you take a look at what's on the screen there, it comes up to 1,125. That's the square foot.
I'm asking about the cost per square foot.
Yes.
What did you say it was again?
1,125. If you take a look up at the top, as you come down the list, building, the lab equipment is $168 a square foot. Building itself is $604 a square foot. But when you add it all up, it comes to that number of 1,125. It'll be less than that, but they have to think about the very highly specialized equipment that's going into this and the specialized equipment for HVAC. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, can you talk a little bit more about the odor mitigation system?
The what?
The odor mitigation system you have?
Yeah. What happens is that, let's say there's a, in one of those pictures you might see that there's an autopsy area, and what takes place there is that odors start to develop. So there's an exhaust system at the bottom of the table that goes through the floor. It goes into a system that collects the odors, collects all of the air in the room. So it's 100% exhaust of that room that goes up into a system that shoots that air up into the air, the odor and exhaust fumes up into the air. It's dispersed once it hits the air.
Thank you. My concern is there's a park within a quarter mile of that place. There's homes right across the street. You've got a rehab center that's located just behind you, and then you've got the odors coupled with a convenience center. If this project moves forward, we just want to make sure we're addressing that, because you've got a quality of life issue with that being in there.
And I understand your concern very much. This has been addressed in the HVAC systems. Let me explain a little bit. The HVAC system that we're using and the company Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The HVAC systems and all of the equipment regarding exhausting and circulating that air and exhausting, bringing in fresh air, was designed by a company called Phoenix. They specialize in this type of operation. So they are well aware, and we've addressed this issue, and that's why on the rooftop, there is this system that shoots this stuff into the air. We've addressed this when we said, well, what happens when it goes up there? Then the answer is that the amount of air that's coming up is not that great compared to the air movement in the general vicinity, so that it will be completely dispersed. And that is only for the autopsy area. Office side is typical, recirculate.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Anyone else?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to jump the gun, Eric. I don't know what kind of your plan is. I do have a couple questions for Ms. Denise whenever we get to that point. I didn't know if you were summing it up at the end or not.
At the latter part, right here.
Commissioners, I hope you were as impressed as I am with Ms. Martin's credentials. She is by far an expert in this field, and we are lucky in Rutherford County to have her. I believe the presentation by Ron and Tyrone shows that this is a state-of-the-art facility that will be something impressive. At this time, Chairman, with your permission, I would like to call up Captain Todd Sparks of the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you from a law enforcement perspective. A lot of what I would say would echo what you've probably already heard, but I think it is important for you to hear specifically from law enforcement. Just to give you a little background on myself, again, my name's Todd Sparks. I'm the captain over investigations for the Sheriff's Office, which includes general investigations all the way through to narcotics, to include death investigations. In my 30th year with the Sheriff's Office, the 27th year in investigations. So over the last 27 years, literally have been involved either as the lead investigator, the assisting investigator, or the supervising investigator for literally hundreds of death investigations. This concept is not new, as you've heard, and it's not a new vision for law enforcement any less than it has been a vision for EMS. There is a significant need. I would like to just give you some recent examples from law enforcement standpoint. And of course, I'm speaking on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, but I can tell you that I have spoken with my counterparts at Murfreesboro Police, Laverne Police, Smyrna Police as well, and they all echo the same feelings as far as what our frustrations are at times. Just to give you a few examples, most recently, the frustrations that we deal with typically involve the timing of autopsies. First of all, we often don't know when those autopsies are going to take place. We may be told 9 a.m. we get there, it's already been conducted. We may be told 9 a.m. we get there and they say we have to move it till tomorrow. We have very little communication with the medical examiner's office, with forensic medical. And let me preface that by saying I'm not here to vilify or defame forensic medical. They're a very important asset to us. We appreciate what they do for us. It's a necessary thing. We have to have them to do our job. But we need harmonious relationships with those folks that are conducting those autopsies so we can have more positive outcomes in our investigations. We don't have that. That is because we're not the priority. I believe, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, 63 counties that forensic medical services for autopsies. We are not but we are one of the top agencies as far as volume of autopsies that are conducted at that facility, but we're not the priority. What not being the priority looks like is, for example, last year we had a 3-month-old that was found deceased in a home. Not the greatest living conditions, but there were no obvious signs of death. It took us 5.5 months to learn that that child had died from a methamphetamine toxicity. That's a homicide investigation. 5.5 months, we're behind the curve in the homicide of a 3-month-old. That's very frustrating. As an investigator, it's very frustrating for a family. 2-month-old last year, 3 months to get information back on no obvious signs of death. This child died of natural causes, but for 3 months, we have a young couple whose child has died for unknown reasons, and we can't provide any answers for them for over 3 months. That shouldn't have to happen. Young adults, we had one recently, 4.5 months, I believe it was, before we got an autopsy back on no obvious signs. Overdose investigation. Died of an overdose. We're 4.5 months behind the curve now on a second-degree homicide investigation. And I can give you more examples of those, but those are the ones that come to mind for me right now. The development of a forensic center in Rutherford County is not going to be the magic wand that suddenly is going to keep crime from occurring in Rutherford County. I've been in investigations for 27 years, and it gets more and more every year. I can't speak for the numbers for other agencies. I know for us, we're averaging probably 1 death investigation a week. And that's a death investigation that our detectives are responding to, our crime scenes units are responding to. We're having to conduct autopsies, follow-ups, and things of that nature. Frustrations like sending detectives to an autopsy in Nashville that, as you know, in morning traffic can take well over an hour to get to. Hours spent at that facility hoping to get some answers. Often there's very little communication between us and those professionals that are involved in those autopsies. Time traveling back, that's good quality time that those investigators can be taking care of the investigation and not having to just try to have some communication with the medical examiner's office. And again, as I've stated, we don't get a lot of that because we're just not the priority. We're now the 4th largest county in the state of Tennessee. From a law enforcement perspective, we feel like it's time to act like it. It's time to be the gold standard that we've heard about, that we want to be in this county, and I think this is a big step in the right direction for that. It's unfortunate that we're talking about it as it relates to death investigations, but it's reality. So from a law enforcement perspective, we are 100% in favor of this forensic center and have been for a very long time. We have a tremendous professional working relationship with Ms. Martin, with Mr. Gaither and their staff, and that's been a godsend for us as we move forward and as things continue to grow and get busier than they ever have been. But we're not there yet, and there's so much more that we can do, and there's so many opportunities for us to be better than we are today. So on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, we're 100% in favor of it. Again, speaking for my counterparts that I've spoken to personally, they are in favor of it. It is a well past due service that we can provide for families in this county by being able to provide them more efficient and effective services and give them answers in a much more efficient way. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak on that. Questions? Thanks.
Well, I don't know how you follow that. I guess the last thing that I would like to let everybody know is that the mayor's office believes is the most important feature of this product is that we can accomplish everything that we have talked about here tonight without the need to raise taxes or borrow money. Over the last 2 years, Ted Beatty, Michael Smith, and Mayor Carr have worked diligently to increase the fund balance. This increase in the fund balance is what has provided us with one-time money necessary to pay for this project while still maintaining our AAA bond rating. As this is one-time money, the Mayor's office believes that the best use of these funds is to use them on projects that reduce the annual budget. And we believe that is exactly what this project will do in a significant way. If anyone has any questions, myself and Denise and Brian are available to answer those questions.
Not everybody at once. All right, Denise, first, I do have some questions for you, but I want to thank Eric, Denise, Brian, the mayor, all of you. Y'all have put a lot of work into this, and thank you. It's a very well thought out presentation, and I definitely see a need in this. But I guess technical questions. What I see on the report you gave us at the commission meeting, what the recommended size of the facility would be. We're kind of shooting under that. What would our capacity be to be able to handle dissidents?
Sure, I appreciate the questions. So currently, yes, on those parameters that were provided within the report, if we were looking at a 15,000 square foot, we're looking at around 850 autopsies per year. So that would well obviously cover our Rutherford County cases, but leave us some capacity to assist other counties if they choose to opt for us.
How many could it handle at one time? I guess Chairman Reed had mentioned we've seen the air disasters we're dealing with and some mass casualty events. How many could we handle at once? God forbid we needed to do that.
Well, certainly, I mean, the way that the building is designed currently, we would have 3 autopsy suites and 3 autopsy stations rather in the main autopsy room, and then another in the isolation. So essentially 4 autopsies could be going at any one time. Autopsies can range, depending on complexity, between sort of an hour to several hours, depending on the complexity. So, with the right amount of staff and that we could be doing at least 4 autopsies, essentially every hour, depending on the complexity of the case. We would have storage capabilities of around 44. Bodies to be held. One part of the design that you may not, I don't think was highlighted necessarily, is that we do have loading docks at the back. Not that we would ever want to use refrigerated trailers, but they had been a necessity in COVID. In fact, the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center had, I think, at one time 2 or 3 delivered there. But they would actually be secured to the building because they are true loading docks. So they would be secured to the facility, and then the facility parking lot where the staff and where the sally port and where, if we were to use refrigerated trailers, it would be fenced in and secured, obviously by camera as well as badge entrance in and out of the facility. So based on that, we could certainly be prepared for surge capacity if it was needed.
God forbid that happens, but
absolutely.
Operating budget-wise, what are you anticipating? I know here it showed a construction cost, but an operating annual budget of about $3.7 million. I know we're a smaller size facility. Is that about the same? What are you thinking?
I think it will be lower, particularly initially. I mean, that's taken on a capacity of a lot higher than we are looking at. There are cost reimbursement schedules, as I mentioned, from the state, so that would offset some of the costs. Initially, we can start with a foundation crew and build from that. So the operating cost would probably be comparable to Hamilton County. So Hamilton County, I believe, currently is about 1.2, 1.3 million.
Thank you. And how many forensic pathologists, I guess, initially would you want to hire, and where would you see their salaries being, and to remain competitive with the private sector?
Sure. Initially, we would take on one full-time, and I know that the name accreditation recommends or requires 250 full autopsies or 325 when you're looking at equivalents. So we would initially take on one full-time and have availability to at least 2 contract locum physicians, which is typically, standard for regional forensic centers. I know the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center has taken advantage of that, so has Knox County and Shelby County. So initially one full-time, but we would have contract physicians to take over days that our forensic pathologists would need a day off for, and for the shortfall in the amount of autopsies.
Are you looking to bring transport in-house, or now that we're expanding the department, kind of what's our end goal there?
We're looking at both options. Certainly, we're looking to equip our investigators with potential transport vehicles so that we could transport ourselves. EMS typically transport to the hospital for those storage cases, so this would be the county morgue too, which is something that we don't currently have. It would be expected that those storage cases would still be transported by EMS, but we are looking at still potentially using a transport service. That hasn't been fleshed out yet as to which option we would go to.
And I see you've got the size. Is there any kind of what led us to shy away from the report's recommendation of almost a 20,000 square foot facility? Because it looks like this is a couple years old. We've grown since then. It's saying we might need to have around a 20,000 square foot facility.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure. The 20,000 square foot facility is what the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center is.
Right. It's saying there's a recommendation formula for the 6th forensic center with the catchment area of 1 million, which I assume that's what our target would have been.
If we went to that amount, for sure.
It's just we're looking at about 75% of that. I just wanted to make sure, are we going to what is going to be needed, or are we going to see some increased cost down the road if we build too small and we see an increased need, or we have to take on more in an enterprise sense to be able to offset the cost so the taxpayers aren't impacted?
Sure. As I think that Ron and Tyrone showed you, there's expansion areas for the facility to grow. Currently, obviously, we're looking at the priority of Rutherford County. So obviously that is more than enough for Rutherford County and still allows us to offer service to surrounding counties, a capped amount of surrounding counties. That expansion space, future expansion space, the building is specifically designed for that. The walls that would go to those expansion areas are going to be structured so that the expanded areas could be built on, and those walls taken down essentially last minute overnight so that there would be no disruption in service while we're operating. So we've specifically planned for that to happen if we go to that 20,000 square foot building.
Excellent, thank you. And that pretty much covers up my questions for you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have been the member of the commission for about 15 years, like Mr. Chairman said. We listened about this one here, about this the forensic center for about 15 years. I think it would be about time for us to make the decision, to do it. Like Chief of Staff mentioned, the fund will be available, right, if they can start it. No tax, property tax increase.
That's correct. We have identified that, excuse me, we can build this facility without a property tax increase or having to borrow money from the bond market.
Yes, that is the key that I heard from people, so I hope we can do a visit Mrs. Martin's office 1 or 2 occasions. I have heard the information. That's very important information. So everyone said, Commissioner Beverly already, asked some questions. I do not go further, but I agree for the information we have received today. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Denise, Commissioner Beverly hit on future plans. You and I have had multiple conversations through the years on this process, and especially over the last few months. You've shared a vision for the future, and I don't mean the immediate future, I mean long-term vision. And as most of us commissioners know, that's our goal, is to plan not only for next year, but for long-term. We want a vision for Rutherford County into the future, 30 years into the future. You've shared with me what that ultimate vision could be. Not that they'll all materialize, but I'd like for you to share that in a little bit more detail as to some things that could possibly happen with the Forensic Center in Rutherford County.
Well, certainly beyond just being a resource for our region, but with a priority for Rutherford County, we're certainly looking at what we believe is missing, and that is education and training in this region, in our county. We hope to be a resource for training, direct training with law enforcement and our other first responder agencies, building that collaboration and those relationships, and truly providing some elite training together, joint training. There's abilities to offer training events outside of our county, and they could obviously be a revenue source for us. We also constantly being requested to help with internships at colleges. MTSU, for example, has showed a great desire and wanting to partner with us and offer some real experience for the forensics departments over there. So the ability to be able to outreach to those higher education, but also even on the high school level, we receive requests all the time for some education programs. And obviously, while we wouldn't expose them to the autopsy side of things, being able to speak directly to forensic pathologists, medical legal death investigators, forensic techs, and giving them some oversight, overview of what fields they could enter, I think is incredibly important. Offering a resource for our families to come in. As we mentioned, we don't even have a county morgue now. We have conversations from families all the time, being able to sit down with them in an appropriate and safe space for them to come in and talk to us. So there's lots of different avenues, from just providing education and training within our county and our region, to looking at some revenue providing events that could help us with the operational costs, but also becoming that resource for our families and our constituents here in Rutherford County. Is that okay? Thank you, sir.
Ms. Martin, one question. You talked about cost reimbursement. You anticipate or plan to look for grant money? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, there are grants available for improvements in the medical examiner and forensic centers that the BGA, federal government, traditionally have offered once a year. There's competitive grants that we would be in a position to apply for. Currently, we can't because we don't have a facility to be able to apply for. So that, yes, there are some rather large grants, and especially when you're looking at education and training, which is something that we would love to focus on, that will be available to us, but also for improvements in strengthening the medical examiner field. That certainly we can't apply for now, but will be available to us, and I think we would be a very strong candidate for winning some of those awards, for sure. Thank you.
Anyone else? Let me mention one thing. I'm glad this evening we did get Detective Sharp up here. We have brought him to other meetings, and he's always ended up sitting back there. We've overlooked him for some reason. I don't know why. But I'm glad that he did have his opportunity tonight to speak. But I just want to tell you that we commend our detective division down at the Sheriff's Department. And I have to say, I have a personal reason for that. There'll be an anniversary this year of when I had to use that detective department to help me out. And they went way beyond the call, and I really appreciate what they did for me. Not the fact that I was totally in trouble and done something wrong, but something was wrong done to me. And they really, I saw the difference of what they do there. But I don't know how many of you get up in the morning. I quit watching Nashville news due to the fact of what I saw every morning. Every morning, somebody was shot, somebody was killed, I just quit watching it. I started looking at WGNS radio news in the morning. I don't know how many of you do that now, but every morning there's been a shooting. There's been something that either our Sheriff's Department or the Murfreesboro Police Department's involved. Smyrna's on here this morning. It's how we have changed with the growth and the population we have today. We talk about now that we are the 4th largest. If I'm not right, haven't they built their 2nd forensic center? I think they have, hadn't they replaced the one that they've had? I was thinking they were building another one due to size.
I think you told me one more.
But I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is now we are the 4th largest, and we're the only one of the 4 that does not have one. But I'm just saying some of those things right there. I spoke to both the state representatives in that area Saturday, and they were favorable to this possibility. But just wanted to tell you those things. But you're seeing some things here. We talked about the size. If I had the plan put back up there for you, you'll see that it is expandable on each side in what we're talking about there. But commissioners, discussion that you may have now, we'll allow you to do that. Open whatever discussion you may have.
Mr. Chair, in the interest of transparency, I'd like to get Dr. Lee, make a motion to suspend the rules and get Dr. Lee up here, one, to ask some questions on and get clarity on what if we don't proceed on this, what that will look like, so everyone is aware of what both options look like. Citizens watching are aware of that we're seeking turning over every stone before we spend $15 million and start an enterprise. I just want to make sure, and I have a list of questions of just things I'd like clarified, and it shows us the path we're on and which way we go at this fork in the road, and it gets everything out. So I'd like to make that motion to suspend the rules.
It's between the commissioners here. Had a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Dr. Lee.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me here to speak in front of the committee. My name is Feng Li, and Dr. Li, I am the CEO of the company Forensic Medical and the Chief Medical Examiner for Metropolitan Nashville and Davidson County. I moved to Nashville in July 2000, and I've witnessed the growth of the Middle Tennessee, including the Rutherford County, over the years, last 20-some years. And we wanted first to have very good relationship with the counties we provide forensic services, including Rutherford County. And as a matter of fact, we have very good relationship with the county and over the years, and we are very proud of what we do in our field. And recently, we actually added some counties from West Tennessee, because in Memphis office, they cannot handle their volume, so they ask us to take care of some. So we would also take care of the counties they added, but it's on a temporary basis, you know. And but in the paperwork I gave to you, first of all, we accept we accepted 1,826 cases for the last 5 years in Rutherford County, and completed 1,826. Only 8 cases still left for 2024. So average case days, 60 days for the last 5 years. And from January 1st to 2024 to December 31st, 2024, we accept 335 cases from Rutherford County, and we finished 327 cases. So the average case days, 45 days. Basically, we are well within the name standards. Name standards call for 90% of cases finished by 90 days. So our average case days for Rutherford County is 45 days for 2024. Occasionally, maybe we delay 1 day, but that's very, very rare, because we have 13 full-time forensic pathologists in our office, and we do about 3,200 cases last year. So it's well within the name standards. As Ms. Martin said, the name standards is 250 to 325. So 325 is the top limit for a full-time forensic pathologist to do 1 year. So that's the data I give to you. And about our company, we established in 1997 and fully accredited by National Association of Medical Examiners. As Ms. Martin said, we have 5 regional centers in the state of Tennessee. We're the largest one. And Ms. Martin and we worked together for many years. And also, we trained 2 full-time investigators from our center in Nashville, and now they moved here in Rutherford County. So we have a very open communication between these 2 offices, and we have open communications with law enforcement. But the cases I just heard, about 5 a month or so delayed, I will do some investigation. But keep that in mind, these of the children, the pediatric cases are most difficult cases, because we need a lot of information, including investigation, scene investigation, interview, and other things. Toxicology would delay. But I would do some investigation and make sure that we are on top of things, because we take our counties, other counties very seriously. We take Rutherford County as well as other counties, we provide a service very seriously. We will not delay, we will not, become late. And we're aware that the implications of the family, the law enforcement, the county, the community, and we want to keep the figures here as I reported to you. For last year, our average case days is 45 days. So that is And other pictures, our leadership team and our pathologist picture from our website and our office. And I'll invite you, commissioners, to visit our office, and we're welcome to come to visit us anytime you want, and I'll welcome you to see our office. And we have 7 autopsy stations in our facility. We can do 12, 13 cases a day, autopsy-wise. And our coolest spaces have been recently expanded, so we can accommodate a lot of growth and the needs for the future. And we are not behind. We are not, overwhelmed, because we have 13 doctors. We autopsied 3,300-ish last year. That alone is like we still have a capacity to accommodate more autopsies. It's not that we cannot handle the case or handle the growth or handle more cases. We can still handle more cases in our office. There's no doubt we will not be overwhelmed, and we will take a priority to all the counties we serve, and we will not delay. So in terms of the cost, we are very aware, counties with limited budget, so we want to be conscious. And as Ms. Martin said, we charge $2,500 an autopsy. I did some research. Other centers, maybe from 1900, there is other offices is from $3,000 per autopsy, $4,000 for complicated cases, including the pediatric, the children cases, and other homicides and other cases on top of the regular. And also, if there's additional tests needed, for example, additional anthropology, additional DNA, additional tox, they will charge back to the counties. And we didn't do that. We will eat all the cost in our office. We don't charge, we charge $2,500 a flat fee. Don't charge or bill the county for any additional cost. Like another office, they will charge the lab studies, if there's special studies, and so on. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak, but bottom line is this: we want to keep the good relationship with the counties, especially the Rutherford County, to our service, and we will keep that. And I'm happy to answer any question you might have. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I just have a follow-up question. I know that you stated that you plan to do some investigation regarding the comments, Captain Sparks. Have those concerns ever been brought up to you before regarding, the concerns that he brought up?
Personally, I haven't heard, but as I said, we deal with a lot of cases, 3,000 plus cases, and especially these pediatric cases, the children, it will take a long time to investigate and to do the autopsy, to do the lab studies. But I will personally make sure that I will do this investigation.
Thank you. And also from Commissioner Oliver, how do you prioritize autopsies considering the large number of counties that you serve currently?
Right. So on surface, we serve, regularly 50 plus counties. But recently, as I just indicated, West Tennessee added more counties to us because they cannot handle it. And a lot of counties, they have only a few cases a year. On surface, it's like 50 to 60 counties. But Rutherford County is one of the bigger counties. And other counties, they don't have some counties don't have autopsy for a long time. But we have the capacity to handle more cases than we have right now. There's no question about that. There's no problem with that. And we can do the job, and we will definitely handle the cases we receive.
Another question, you referenced the 45-day turnaround. How does that compare nationally, and how does it compare locally to the other centers in Middleton or in Tennessee?
So, as I said, there's a standard, it's an accreditation. Our office is accredited by the National Association of Medical Examiners. That's the name we call it in short. That's the organization who accredit, inspect all the medical examiners' office in the country. We are so proud. We pass each and every time. And last time, the year before, the last 2 times, we don't have any deficiencies because they came to do the inspection and do the investigation, do the paperwork evaluation, and no deficiency. And again, the standard is this. If there's a phase 1 deficiency, you will not pass. Phase 1 deficiency, one of them is you have to finish 90% of the cases in 90 days. So we don't have that. We pass our inspection no time. And as I said, the cases they vary from simple to very complicated. And some complicated cases, we need more information. Sometimes we need information from the law enforcement. We have to wait, just the same as whether in Rutherford County, whether in Davidson County or other counties, the same thing. We will take a priority as we will provide a service. We will strive to provide the best service to the counties we serve. We are so proud, and we will not, in any way, delay or overwhelmed, cannot handle. That's not the case because we have 13 full-time forensic pathologists. By the way, in the entire country, there's less than 800 full-time forensic pathologists. So it is very difficult to recruit a doctor, in the office.
Now, Dr. Lee, let me ask you, I'm behind you. I noticed when you look at the map, you're over 60% of the state, right?
Yeah.
When you increase size like that, I know it probably increases profitability, but does it affect quality?
Again, the counties, we have so many counties, but the numbers important. Some counties, they have only 1 to 10 autopsies a year, but still we provide a service too.
But when they come all the way from West Tennessee,
yes,
does that not affect some problems?
Actually, I talked to them. Some counties, they said this to me directly. Right now, West Tennessee Regional Forensic Centers cannot handle the cases. So they told the other counties to send their body to Nashville. And these counties came to me and said, some of them, even if they can handle in the future, we will still send the cases to you, to Nashville, from West Tennessee. Sometimes 300 miles away, 200 plus miles away. All the way from here to the Missouri, to the west, northwest corner, next to Missouri, they still send it to us.
I guess I've got a question on your recruiting. What does your recruitment package look like for a forensic pathologist? Are you salary? Are you offering tuition reimbursement?
Right.
Because this is something we need to be thinking of.
Right. So the market value for a chief medical examiner, it's about $300,000 average, plus the indirect cost, wage and benefit. Right. That's, I'll say, about $400,000. And our largest expense is the wage and the benefit. It's about 50% of our cost. The next most expensive item is toxicology. And the toxicology the cost increases so much, and that's another major expense item.
I guess, but what, talked about benefits, are y'all offering tuition reimbursement?
We don't.
Do not? Okay.
Yeah.
We're just asking those questions.
Usually, the county will, they will if they have the, resource.
Do you anticipate a price or any price increases over the next 24 months or to 3 years on your autopsies?
So I don't know yet, but I can offer to the county if we can have a contract, and I will say for the next, say, 3 years, we will, fix the cost without interest or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we not under contract now?
No.
Okay. And has anybody approached you about restructuring or exploring that option? Has anybody done that?
What do you mean by restructuring?
Or, I'm sorry, has anybody approached you about restructuring how we operate, establishing a contract, and minimum expectations?
No, but I'm happy to discuss that, if you prefer.
John, if I can just retort on that one. Have we had a contract before, or have we strictly just been case by case?
Oh, case by case.
Follow-up quick question. What are some of the factors considered for your fee increases? And why are the increases sporadic?
I cannot hear very well.
Yeah. What factors are considered when you propose those fee increases?
All right. So bottom line is this: everything increased. Now, just the expense, inflation. So the most expensive, in the budget item is the wage and the benefit, and the doctor's salary, the supporting staff salary, everything will go up. Because if we are not competitive enough, people will just move. If they say, okay, I can do some work in McDonald's more than you offer, I'll go to McDonald's. That's simple. And that's the most important thing. The personnel, the wages and benefit, these are the major items we consider, because everything, as you expect, inflation and other expense will have that effect on our annual budget. And also, I want to say this: this is not it's not like a for-profit. It's like maintenance, and we don't make a lot of money on that.
Commissioner Rather.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. Metro Nashville and Davidson County has nothing to do with your location there, correct? You're the CEO of the company. Do you own it?
We have a parent company own it, and I have a small ownership. But this facility was built by the state in 2001.
It was what?
It was built in 2001 by the state of Tennessee.
State.
Yes.
So who owns it? The state?
State. State of Tennessee.
State of Tennessee owns it?
Yes.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Kind of a problem I'm seeing and feeling with you, with all due respect, it's you kind of got multiple issues that seem to be going along. These constant price hikes have kind of put you at that level to where we are wondering, can we not do this better ourselves, or at least do this as good for the same or less amount of money? And I'm not seeing any indication of getting that under control of this every 6 months or every 12 months constant with significant increases. So that for me, that's alarming to keep reeling back on. The other problem is, I'd like to get back on what our chairman asked about the quality. You keep saying you can handle more cases, and then you turn around also and said that some of them will have to wait. I understand reasonings, you justified some of the reasonings where other investigations and so on, but if some of them have to wait longer and longer, in my novice layman opinion, that tells me you can't handle more cases. You could on the slab and back in the morgue and wait for results to come in and claim you're handling more, but you still have those are piling up. That's how that came across for me. So it doesn't wonder that, and then it wonders, well, if in order to handle more and you have to go through much faster, is there a quality issue that will come down the line? And I'm not saying there is in your case yet. I'm seeing the potential with the eagerness wanting to handle more when you're already getting that backlog. Could that occur? And that's scary because I don't know anybody that would catch that until it's way too late or way beyond the moment to catch that. As you said, there's only 800 of your medical examiners in the country to proceed. So it gives extra pause and extra concern. I really appreciate the relationship we've had with you up until this point, but by y'all raising y'all's prices so much, it got us to the point to where we really had to start looking in-house and figuring out other alternatives, and it's got me with a lot of pause and a lot of concern. So I wanted to let you know that kind of thing. And the third step that really kind of hurts you guys right now, in my opinion, is what I'm hearing is communication. Sometimes you're saying you're needing to wait on law enforcement for other investigation materials or so forth, and they're saying sometimes they're waiting on you. It feels like we're more at the mercy of waiting on you to reach out and let us know you need something from us than the other way around. And for you, it's a simple phone call. For us, it's transport back up there, wait all day, transport back, and that's more cost to the tax-paying citizen here, just in that delay of no answer, try again tomorrow, or the unknown. It gives me more pause. I'm not finding too much to hang my hat on, and I want to. I don't want to add more burden, more expense to the county anyway. In any way, but I'm having some issues trying to connect where it's not forcing the hand to go this direction. Do you have any retorts on any of that? I mean, not just promise that you'll look into, investigate why one was 5 months or why we can do better, just why has it gotten to that point now? And you're offering a contract to stabilize, but if we've never had the contract before, we'd like to figure out what kind of mechanism, formula you've got that raises the rates multiple times throughout the year when we have to budget once a year.
All right, so there's a room to improve, as you indicated, that, I will talk to our investigators and we'll emphasize more communication between these two counties, between the offices, and I think we have no problem with this, medical examiner's office, because we know the investigators and the director, everybody, we are very familiar, and we will do that. I will ask them to improve the communication. As you said, there are two ways. You wait on me, I wait on you, but we will take a more proactive. And that. The other. The question you concern, I don't know. You have this. The case load. We don't have any backlog. It's average case days, as I put it there, is 45 days for 2024. For the last 5 years, 2019 to 2024, average case days is 60 days. So that there's no backlog, there's no delay, there's no overwhelming, and our quality is assured by, we have an internal quality assurance QA program, and we will meet every week on Wednesday to discuss the difficult cases. Everybody would present difficult cases, and everybody to contribute what is, anything we have on the cases. And the cases, some cases delay. It's not because we don't take Rutherford County seriously. It is the same whether it's from Rutherford County, other county, the Davidson County. We needed information. It's not because of Rutherford County we don't take a priority. It's because the case. But in any event, I will do personal investigation to see what is exactly the reason for that case we discussed. It took so long.
Dr. Lee, could you please conclude, because we've got other business on this agenda for the other departments. This is our regular meeting for public safety. So if you want to conclude, we need to move on.
All right, so I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you. And, you can reach out to me any.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll ask that the presenters please give us their closing.
Okay. So I do want to address a few things out of transparency. I appreciate Dr. Lee coming here and talking about a few things, but I would like to regroup on a couple of points as well. As he mentioned, he is a physician partner of the corporation.
Let me call us back in session. I didn't call us back in session from the
Okay,
time.
sorry. So just to regroup on a few things that Dr. Lee just said, and I do appreciate his communication with us all, but just to revisit a few points he said out of transparency. He is the CEO, president, and a physician partner of the firm, which is a for-profit corporation. I think that's important to point out. And I believe this is the first time he's visited the committee or us on official business in the years that his company has been doing business with us. In regards to a contract with the Forensic Center, as you all know, I worked there for almost a decade and a half, and it's my experience that we never had a contract with any of the counties. They are free to choose which forensic center they go to. Obviously, logistically wise, Nashville is the closest to us, so that makes more sense from an economical standpoint. I don't believe that what Dr. Lee has just talked about is necessarily dismissing us in our goals of looking after our county cases. Appears that he's more being dismissive of the study, which was performed by an independent, unbiased third party. So I would like to draw your attention to the points that were made in the study of what they classify as deficiencies, and that they believe, based on their evaluation of all 5 RFCs, Regional Forensic Centers, that we are in urgent need of a 6th forensic center, and again, that it would be most beneficial for it to be in Rutherford County and be available for service for the Middle Tennessee District, which is the one that has an alarming number of counties going to that one office. As Dr. Lee said, they are the largest forensic center, but in that he means largest in volume. As you go back to the study and look at the evaluation that the study group did, it is the smallest of the what I would call true regional forensic centers. With the exception of Hamilton, obviously, they only service Hamilton County and are in desperate need of a regional forensic center, a larger one, which they are in the process of of gaining, but at 20,000 square foot, it is significantly deficient in what the SWIG MDI original paper, that is a resource for name, and in fact, like I mentioned before, was authored or co-authored by a past and the current president of the National Association of Medical Examiners, which is the accrediting body for all regional forensic centers in Tennessee. When we're looking at what their requirements are for accreditation, they talk about how many days that the cases should be completed by. That's put on there to advise that you're in violation if you go above those numbers of days. So I don't think that's necessarily a goal to achieve. It's a goal to never get close to. I have seen a significant change in the number of days it's taking to complete cases. I would point out that this improvement has coincided since we announced that we had funding for architectural and engineering plans, so you can draw your own conclusions from the timing of that. I've historically audited the number of days it's been taking for case completion over the 5 years I've been here in Rutherford County as your supervisor of the medical examiner's office, and I will say that's not the historical norm. I've had voiced concerns by our county medical examiner as to the fact they are now being rather hurriedly put through. In fact, that she's noticed that we've had autopsies or cases completed before the autopsy report is even drafted and up there, before medical records have been received, before law enforcement reports have been received. Investigative or detective supplements are not being requested on the norm, and I will say from my experience that is not what we should be doing when we're looking at manner of death. Cause of death for a forensic pathologist should be relatively a simple procedure. The cause of death can be typically found on physical findings at the autopsy, and is influenced also by the toxicology tests that are coming back. So cause of death is not really a difficult subject or topic for a forensic pathologist. Manner of death is very, very different. Manner of death, you're looking at homicide, suicide, accident, natural or undetermined. One particularly difficult type of case or type of manner is suicide. When you're looking at suicide manner of death, it primarily comes from the scene investigation, the detective's investigation, medical as well as psychological records, witness interviews, including family interviews and friends interviews. That takes a long time to compile. We have had, unfortunately, 13 suicides in Rutherford County since the beginning of this year. Every single one of those, suicide as manner of death has been declared on the death certificate, either the day of the autopsy or the day after autopsy. That, to me, should not be standard practice. I think if anybody's seen the news recently, you'll realize how difficult these cases can be. There's been several cases that have been in the media where it's been wrong. It shouldn't. Information was ignored, and the case is actually determined to be a homicide. When looking at that case that Captain Sparks brought up just a little while ago about the infant death, I'd like to remind Dr. Lee that was his case. I'd also like to remind him that after 2 weeks, or approximately the 2-week mark, the toxicology report was received by the Regional Forensic Center. So at 2 weeks, that toxicology report showed that that infant had received a massive overdose. That sort of information, those sort of findings should immediately have been communicated to the lead detective and to my office. It wasn't. It waited until the autopsy report was released. And now I have a problem with that too. When the Regional Forensic Center is declaring the case complete, I've mentioned that sometimes it's been marked complete before the autopsy report has even been up there. There's a big difference between when it's been uploaded into the case file and when it's available to law enforcement and it's available to the medical examiner. When it's complete, it should be when that autopsy report is available. I have been auditing the cases, and even with the improvement of time that it's coming back at, it's still about 3 to 4 weeks following that completion documentation in the case management system, which is a proprietary case management system by the Regional Forensic Center. So there's a delay there. That case that Captain Sparks talked about, the death certificate was updated about 3 weeks before that autopsy report became available, which meant that cause and manner of death statement was communicated in a public document. I say public, it's only available to certain people, but the death certificate is not released to law enforcement. They rely on the autopsy report, but they also rely on the findings to be able to progress forward their cases, and that was not communicated. So when you're investigating that case, sir, with all due respect, it was your own case. So anyway, I would like to just bring us back to that study. It was done by an unbiased, independent, neutral party, neutral group. So if there's a, I would ask you to look back through those, look at the parameters that have been recommended to be used as guidelines for regional forensic centers, and you will realize that there is a deficiency with the way our regional forensic centers are set up in Tennessee, and a huge concern with the Middle Tennessee, and that is a legitimate document that I think you should all take serious note of. Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have some other questions on this. However, I'm going to request to see, and I'm not sure exactly how you should do it, or if it'd be wise on one, but on the second one, I think it would be wise. The first one was, should we move this topic, pause this topic, and move it down to let some of the other departments come through, present their reports, get some of the business out of hand, let some of this, all this information kind of digest some to follow up with the remaining questions, bring them back up for the questions under EMS at the end. But then the other reason that is kind of imperative for me, I could use a bathroom break if we could take just a couple minutes.
Well, I think we're down to that part. Is there any other questions that commissioners have? Are we ready to go for?
I think you said you had some.
I'm going to have some more, but I have some questions and thoughts in mind. The problem with it is I'm still digesting a lot of information. I'm very grateful for a lot of the detailed information we got. I'm very grateful that Mr. Lee came up and gave us information and was willing to do the back and forth with us as well. But I would like a minute to let that sink in personally. I don't know how the fellow commissioners feel.
I can do that. We can go for like 5 minutes, 5-minute break, but I will ask that you not deliberate at that time.
I don't intend to deliberate. If I can just 2 minutes bathroom for me.
Well, we'll have a 5-minute break. I'm calling us back in session. Commissioners?
Chairman, first of all, I want to thank Chairman Sereno that made a comment that y'all have talked about this for a long time. It's been talked about my 6 years. And the old saying is, you the fish or cut bait. I think we're at that point. We either go for it or stop talking about it. Also, we all know who put us in these chairs. and that's Rutherford County. Right now, every forensic center that I've heard of, we're not the #1 priority. Our citizens should be, and this will make them, this entire county, #1 priority. I'm glad we have expansion room there. And lastly, before I make a motion, when Captain Sparks got up here, there was something in my head as he was talking. 3 words: shame on us. Shame on us if we don't do this for our county and consider it a priority. So I want to make the motion that we move this forward with a positive recommendation. I think it's Health and Ed tomorrow, budget Thursday, and move it on. Let's go through the process, and when the full commission votes, I'm sure there's going to be more questions. But right now, we need to take another step. Because standing still, you're backing up. I always heard. If you take one step forward, you're going forward. If you stand still, you're backing up. So let's move forward, and I want to make that motion.
You mean Health and Ed and Property Management?
Health and Ed, Property Management, and then budget, yes.
Okay. I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Champ, that means he made the motion to go on with the forensic center, right?
For Forensic Center, it goes to Health and Ed. And then from there to Property Management, and then from there to budget.
Okay. I second.
And it's going with a positive recommendation, is that what you said? Yes. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do we have further discussion?
I do, Mr. Chair. I guess, Commissioner James, you had more questions.
You go ahead. We have discussions. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, didn't you have more questions?
Yeah, I have discussions. I don't know what else anybody else has, but well, crap. But my thought right now is I've been staunchly against this project for a while. My biggest holdup was the cost of the build. I didn't want to add more debt to the county, and so the claim of the $14–15 million is set aside in the revenue, excessive revenue, generated revenue, I should say. But I'm concerned. I want to know something on that revenue basis that I just need to get overturned in my mind. That's where the answer I was needing. Was that revenue not just used on the mid-year pay raise? Do we still have that revenue? Because I know we're playing semantics with what pot it comes out of, where it comes out of, but I'm also looking at other projects coming that's got me nervous. You know, hundreds of millions of dollars from the school this year are coming towards us. We see other projects like that coming. And that was one of my big holdouts was trying to figure that part out. That's why I wanted to get idea and find out if we were, where that is. Correct me on the rules. Is it too late to get that answer under this discussion?
We have, right over here, at the chairman.
If I could try to answer that, I had a conversation this afternoon with Michael Smith, and Michael assured me that the money was there, and in my mind, a more proper use of that money would be in brick and mortar instead of reoccurring expenses such as the salary increase that we provided. Michael's here. If you want to get that information from him straight from the horse's mouth, you're welcome to do that. Michael is here, but My conversation with him this afternoon dealt with finances, and the money is there. In essence, we can write a check for this. I know there's some thought in some commissioner's mind as to the timing of this. Do we do it now, or do we wait 5 years from now, or do we do it 10 years from now? And that's an individual choice, and whatever choice you come up with, as long as it's logical, is not an incorrect choice. My thought process is that if we wait 5 years, or if we wait 10 years and do it, the cost is going to be tremendously more expensive, plus the fact that we will probably look back, or the commission that is seated at that time will probably look back and regret not doing it at this time, or we'll look back 10 years from now and be thankful that we did it at this particular point in time. And once again, the reason for that is that we have no idea what is going to be happening 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as it relates for finances. But it's extremely rare. We're going to be able to pay for a station, an EMS station in Smyrna, and write a check for it. We're going to be able to build a forensic center and write a check for it. No debt service, and still be in sound financial condition as it relates to our bond service. So for me, this commissioner, and I'm not trying to say that it maybe it's what's on your mind as well, but for this commissioner, the timing is right, and the timing is now. If you want to hear from a financial perspective, I would suggest that Michael Smith is here, and he can answer some of those questions point blank.
Part of what I'm trying to grab around is, with every decision we make up here, it's like tugging a string on a spider web. Other strings get tugged in other ways. So I'm wondering, like, go back to the mid-year pay increase. We took a little off for that. We're taking off of this. How's that going to affect this budget year when it comes for the annual cost of living increase or so forth? Are we stuck with what we gave them at the beginning, and is that it, or what else? I mean, that's the future conversation coming if we pull this string, and I'm very wary, very cautious of it. However, I held a town hall in my district Saturday, and I had a pretty sizable turnout, and I gave them all this back and forth. I gave them both sides, because that's the way I like to try to handle with everybody, is I like to listen to everybody, get everybody on the same level playing field, so I have as much information as possible and can make a simple yes or no decision in the moment. And I'm at that moment, it's not so simple, because I was almost 100% in that room, and my district was opposing with my personal thoughts on this that I had been at. And I'm looking at it, and I'm still trying to get the numbers and figure out, because it looks good, but so many numbers we see are skewed to look good, and we have to do further digging and find it. So although I trust you and I believe what you're saying, my due diligence still has that something's causing the hair on my neck to stand. But it does show that in very short time, probably the build out of the structure, that we're going to be cost heavy in the other direction. And so there is that pause. And that's why I was wanting to let more of this information digest further before we got to a motion to let this sink in. Because the last thing I want to do is to step out and go get my car, and before I even get off the square going, if I just known that 5 minutes ago. So that's my real hesitation. There's other things that can be argued and be done, the layout, the square footage. So they're all, you leave that to the department heads. They know their wheelhouse on that. But when it came down to figuring out what is left in that pot, are we not going to hurt ourselves in what we've done so far this year? I keep looking at the history of this county and what has happened, just recent history. One term before us, gave the public safety a 20% pay increase. Then you had to borrow some from deficit to help make ends meet from that one-time funds, right? Along the course, I'm kind of paraphrasing it here. And then we got in and we had that large amount of money the schools needed. And then all of a sudden, boom, before we even got through our first year, giant tax increase came through. I was against that then, I'm still against it now, but it looks like it had to happen, had to go. I'm afraid we're setting ourselves up again on the same thing by still making these same patterns. And although I'm conjoining these two in this effect where I don't think it's fair to add the forensic center to this mesh, I think some of the other things we've added is forcing it into that discussion. And I'm afraid that we're going to keep repeating this history. And that's something I am not willing to do. We need to learn from these past mistakes, I think, or progressions. But yeah, as long as the money is there and the operating of the facility every year is at current, not facilitating the scalable program can be later for other counties, but the ability to break even or come within such a reasonable margin that we're not talking tax increase, not for this, then there is discussion to be had. And that's what I need more clarity of, and was hoping for a little bit longer tonight to talk about.
Mr. Chair, I agree with you. We just now got to a balanced budget and we cleaned up an over $60 million deficit. And I'd caution, yes, we're using this revenue for one-time funds, but we're starting an enterprise. We're starting a program that says we have to save money, but we're also intending to make money. Government does not do enterprise well, and we just started a trash enterprise. I caution phantom cash flow projections because it's a whole lot of we don't know, and once we vote yes in just a short month, we are tied to this building. There's no going back. It is a huge investment. I think we are spot on the necessity and the idea. I'm worried about the timing because we just started an enterprise. We had a huge debate on giving salary increases to our employees. We had to put in language for best efforts for Del Webb's ambulance station. We potentially had to delay Smyrna High School's addition that had to be brought back after it was removed. Laverne High School had to wait for their addition. Again, our employees, we just started a business. I'm afraid we're going to be stretched too thin. I want to see what we have on our capital outlay projects and where this is ranking and how we are going to do this. Because guys, don't sound the alarm. We've got an aging jail that is sneaking up on us. There's no private company for that one that's going to take the jail. And if you think, well, there are private companies, but if you think that's a viable option, you're wrong. I urge some caution before we write a check and say, yes, let's spend $15 million and start a business when we just started one not that long ago with trash. We have a huge debate of trash coming up, and this is not a one-time cost. This is marrying ourselves forever, whether it's debt service if we go that route or operating cost. And if we don't bring in the income, the taxpayers have to do that. Just as if on our transfer station does not bring in the income, we're going to have to cover that cost. I urge a little bit of caution. Denise, Eric, Brian, the mayor, they're right on highlighting a need. But we are so close. If we don't urge caution, we are going to have another deficit to clean up. And I just urge a little bit of time. It's the same principle you're asking for tonight. A little bit of time. A little bit of time before we proceed.
My turn. You're looking for a little bit of time. Okay? Somebody get the can, put it up here, and let's kick it down the road one more time. I've sat here for a while, and as I've told you before, we have kicked it and we have kicked it. In the meantime, we have got detectives that can't solve cases due to the fact we've kicked it down the road. We don't have control over it. The fact is, and I mentioned this a while ago to Dr. Lee, I don't know if y'all looked at that map right there. Look at the pink. That's what we're competing with, guys. And you know who gets first choice on this pink map? What county is that sitting in? They get first choice. The fact is, if you're not the big dog, you don't get to sit on the front porch. And that's about the way this works. And you just heard the length of time that some of these autopsies take. We've got a commissioner in here that's gone through this process, and it ended up, his loved one had to go all the way to Knoxville. And there were a lot of problems involved. I don't know if you've ever sat through these situations where somebody has been involved in an autopsy and goes through this process. It's not the best. But I think what we're looking for, as far as this is concerned, is what's best for Rutherford Countyans. Not best for a profit, not best for that situation. And I think Denise sort of told you that in here, that no, we're not talking about the fact we're going to make a lot of money or whatever. We're hoping to get to the point where we pay for it and break even. And that's what we're trying to do with this. But yes, looking for the right time when we do this, I don't know if there is that right time. We can always say what we're trying to do is going to be the right time. I'd have to say when I bought my first house, I was scared to death. Was it the right time? I don't know, but we paid for it. We did everything we had to do. Everything we have done in the county and programs and things, every commissioner's ever sat in these seats have had to ask themselves, is this the right time to do this? We built a judicial building out here. Everybody said we can't pay for that, but we did. Right time? I haven't got a crystal ball I can look at and say that, but I do know the problems we face, and I think they have sat here and told us this, and we have seen this. And it hasn't just happened right here in this administration. It's happened in other administrations too, where we have seen this. Yeah, we can keep sending it out, going out of sight, out of mind. But do we want to keep treating Rutherford County citizens in this manner? We've got a problem. We've got a problem that they have to face right here. Some of you may not even realize the fact that we built a small lab a few years back to take care of the small situations where we didn't have to do an autopsy. But we did that just so we could get that to save some money, but also to give a little bit of peace of mind to some families out here. You know, a lot of people think autopsies happen to other people until it happens to you. I know how all this happens sometimes. I can't tell you the story I went through in a situation like this, but it wasn't the best. It wasn't the most fun you've ever been through. But I'm just saying, you know, when do we pick the right time? And we've got a situation right here where it's being told to us by our finance director and our mayor that we have the money to do so and go forward. Sometimes you got to decide you're going to fish or cut bait. And I think it's been said over here, we've been cutting bait for a long time. So that's my feeling right there. Anything else that wants to be said? If not, we'll go on with the vote.
I urge caution in that report. Shelby County had to limit outside autopsies because they could not hire a pathologist. They were only going internal. This started was we're going to get state grants. That didn't work. This started, and then it turned into, well, we need to do architecture and design, and then we can go partner with some foundations and some other options, and that's not working. And now we're bearing the full brunt of this. There's other, like we highlighted, we're not under contract, but nobody's approached the current vendor for restructuring and even a contract at that. I'm not sure we're out of options. and not the one that marries us to an enterprise. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, call the vote.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
No.
Commissioner Beverly?
No.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
4-2.
4-2, it passes. It'll be moved on to Health and Ed tomorrow evening, and then on to wherever else it's supposed to go. I think we mentioned several things here going on public work, property management, and then on to budget. Okay, we'll begin the rest of the agenda. Everybody in good shape? Do we need to? I'm the hall monitor, so I was told a while ago. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving into Fire and Rescue Report, Mr. Larry Farley.
Good evening. To spare time, I'll just get my reports before you. We had 684 calls for the month of January, a total of 767 calls countywide. I will point out that our fire marshal's office has had more investigations than we've ever had. We had 17 installations of smoke alarms, but the new record for new cases opened for our arson units exceeds previous record of 15 cases in August 2024. And it shows all those residential and outbuildings that they investigated and the outcome on all of them. And then the unauthorized burning list. And that concludes my report.
Questions on the report?
Tell Josh and the team, good job.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work.
They stay very busy.
Oh, good job to them. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I have one more item. I've been working with Nick, and we have created a lease for the
lease with Milton?
For the Milton building, and it's before you. Basically, the terms are we'll just have to take care of it's a building that was built back when Last Cast was out there. It'll put a truck in that community. We'll drop their ISO rating down from a 9 to a 5. Basically, I think it's the base rent in the amount of $10 for the total term of the lease, which is 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it may be. And I think while she asked that we pay the property tax. This building was built back in the 1990s. Last Cast has built it and housed the engine up there. Miss Penny Hooper, who owned the property, gave the property to the community to build that building. In the contract is if the Last Cast ever ceased to exist, the property would go back to Miss Hooper, which that is what's happened. After that happened and we took over Last Cast, I went and talked to her about being able to put an engine back in there to help the people of Milton. And without that, their insurance rates will go through the roof. So this is my proposal to do that. And I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions or a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
Second.
A second. Please call the roll.
Just 1 second. I have a little discussion on it. I think the $10 for 10 years for this is a good lease. I'm just wanted to voice my concern, though I'll go along with the lease because I agree with it. I just don't necessarily like or feel comfortable with the idea of using a facility as storage so we can claim for a better ISO rating because we can...
Who said it's going to be storage?
When you first brought this up, you mentioned to us that it would be used for housing apparatus and for storage of other equipment.
No, I didn't. I said we're going to put an engine up there. I ain't saying anything about other equipment. If it is, it would be a brush truck or something like that, but I also have volunteers that are willing to respond to that truck.
Okay, I'll go back and double check myself, make sure I'm not wrong, but I just don't like the idea of it not having a permanent manned structure out there with a under us and claiming it as it could be or something just to help with the rating.
Anvil is an unplanned, unmanned structure. You don't have a problem with it.
It's a volunteer department. It's not, I'm not talking about our county full pay. That's not what I'm getting. I'm voicing out my concern, saying that I feel like it's something feels wrong about the idea of that, creating that just for the ISO. But I understand the status. I understand that's kind of the way it is.
If it was your insurance and your insurance went from $1,200 a year to $3,600, would you feel different? Would you feel different between $1,200 and $3,600 a year?
No, because for me, fraud is fraud.
Do what?
No, because for me, I consider misrepresenting that fact, fraud being fraud.
Oh, you accuse me of fraud now?
No, sir. No, sir. You're taking this above what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm just uncomfortable claiming that, but I do recognize that it's a good lease, and I do see that this is the way that this has been done. It just, for me, something feels off on the idea of usage, and I'm trying to get out to wondering, how is the manned facility going to work? Are you going to, how are you going to have are you going to have your firefighters go from Las Casas out there to get into the apparatus or then show up and go?
No.
Are you going to do we have county volunteers that will go out there?
Got a couple of volunteers that respond to that truck when they're available.
That's the missing piece that I wasn't having. I thought wasn't having that. So no, sir, I wasn't accusing you of anything. I was trying to get my own comfort with how it was presented to me and looking.
Other questions? Okay, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray? Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner, I'll leave this comment right here. I don't appreciate you questioning my integrity and my truthfulness.
All due respect, Chief. I'm sorry, Chief. We're still talking. With all due respect, sir, I didn't. You like I said, you kind of took it to the extreme when I was asking what I was thinking on this. Instead, I didn't mean to stir you up.
All right, Sheriff's Office. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
Appreciate you sitting there for a while.
Yes, sir. Our inmate population this morning was 933. This afternoon it was 985. Update on our positions and divisions. Communications has 7 openings. We have 3 applicants in the background process. Detectives has 4 openings. These will be backfilled when patrol gets fully staffed. Detention has 29 openings. Narcotics has 4 openings. SROs has 3 openings with 3 applicants in the background stage. Patrol has 5 openings. Last week they interviewed 38 applicants, and I believe they're down to 20 selections, so hopefully we get these positions filled pretty quick. That's the end of my report.
Gentlemen, you've heard the report.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Report has been approved. I believe you have an amendment.
Yes, sir. This amendment is being requested for the financial year 23 BGA Virtual Reality De-Escalation Grant from the Department of Justice. The amendment will reallocate travel funds. Staff attended a less costly training to move the money to supplies and materials for appropriate CRT classes that we are planning to teach. This is a no match. This is moving money within the grant itself, requesting $2,000 from travel and placing into our other supplies and materials.
Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Has been approved.
Thank you. This budget amendment appropriates money for the firing range repairs at the jail and the sheriff's office. This money was budgeted in the previous financial year, but we rolled it to the fund balance due to the delay in repairs. Last year, we had an engineer that was working with us on the range. He had a family emergency. He couldn't finish the job, so I got with Director Smith about rolling the money over to fund balance. We're requesting $405,500 from unassigned fund balance, $405,500 from contracted services, and placing into our building improvements. This is also a joint project with the city. They're paying the half of this project, and this has been through purchasing.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. And a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have some grant requests. We're requesting to apply for the Tennessee Highway Safety Office and Teen Grant. These are no matching grants. The Tennessee Highway Safety Grant pays for overtime and equipment for deputies working saturations and traffic enforcement. We're requesting $225,000. The Teen Grant pays for overtime and equipment for deputies working teen driving education. We're requesting $20,000. We apply for these grants each year. They run from October to September. If awarded, we request the mayor to be able to accept and sign for the grant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve the grant. Have a second?
He did.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Thanks.
We were requesting to apply for the Bureau of Justice Assistant Financial Year 25 Local Law Enforcement Crime Gun Intelligence Center Integration Initiative Grant. We plan on using the funds to purchase an integrated ballistic identification system. This will give us the capabilities of testing shell casings from crime scenes and from weapons in our evidence room. Along with the funding, we would like to buy a license plate readers. This is a 3-year grant that requires no match. We're requesting to apply for $500,000. If awarded, we request the mayor be able to assign and to accept the funding.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. For discussion. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rather? Yes. Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
This is my last one. We approved in August 2023 to participate in the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy Recruitment and Retention Grant. We was approved $200,000 for a 5-year period. Tennessee Law Enforcement Academy submitted a grant amendment increasing our ability to receive $750,000 in a 5-year period. We are requesting to accept the amendment and allow the mayor to sign and to accept if approved.
Questions or a motion? Have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Beverly? Yes. Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Pause. Michael Gregory.
Good evening. I'll be brief with my report. We had 374 animals come into the shelter. Live release rate for dogs was 90.3%, and cats was 98.4%. Our officers completed out a little over 1,200 calls, traveling 8,307 miles. Year to date, our live release is 91.7%. The second page of the report is the rabies exposure and bite report. This goes by calendar year, so we started over in January. We had 27 bites reported. None of those were sent for testing, and we had 5 other exposures. One was sent for testing, and it came back negative. That's my report, sir.
You've heard the report. Any questions? Motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Had a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Your report has been approved. Thank you, sir. OSHA. Mr. Ed Elam. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Stay around, we'll have breakfast.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ed Elam, Insurance and Risk Management Director. Before we took our report and tried to condense it a little bit more. And so if there's anything on it that you don't like or you want change, that would be fine. But to get to the incident report for January 2025, we had a total of 10 incidences. The calendar year will also be the same. Reserves, you're at 40,241. Year-to-date paid is 1,508. With work, out of work, there's 4. Restricted duty is 7. Board of Ed had 6 of those 10. Rutherford County General had 4. And of the Rutherford County General, Sheriff's had 3. Solid Waste had 1. On the OSHA log summary, total recordables, there were 6. Lost day claims, there was 1. Restricted day claims, 4. Other recordables, there was 1. And your year-to-date reserves is the same as your monthly. And 2 of those claims have been closed. Any questions, anyone?
Questions? Got a motion?
So move.
A motion?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
It is approved. Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Recovery
Chair.
Court.
As they're walking up, if I can say one thing, just one point, at one point, if I may. My questions are back and forth with Chief Farley spun quickly in the wrong direction from where I was going. And although he walked out, I wanted to formally give my apologies. I was not calling his integrity or his sincerity in question. I was just voicing my doubts and my concerns, and I was trying to get around at it, and I just want to make sure that it goes on record that I did not mean to spin that down, go down that rabbit hole with him on that, and I wanted to formally apologize before we go too further.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think that's appreciated. Sometimes these happen, and I'm glad I appreciate that you doing so. All right. That's Recovery Court. Michelle?
Yes. Lindsay Davis, I'm filling in for Lachelle while she is on maternity leave. So real quickly, we have 184 participants currently. We had, in the month of January, we had 6 graduations, 1 termination. In the DUI day program, there are 22 current participants. In the night program, there are 22 current participants. There are 20 applications in progress. For the mental health court, there are 57 current participants with 40 applications in progress. The drug court, there are 62 participants with 34 applications in progress. In the veterans treatment court, there are 21 current participants with 11 applications in process. And that concludes my report.
All right. Questions?
Davis, I have several questions. I'm joking. Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Motion to approve. Have a second? Second. Oh, we got all kinds of seconds here. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The report has been approved.
Can I make one announcement?
Okay.
We have a drug court graduation coming up on March 7th at 10:30 at the Judicial Building. And that's all.
All right.
Thank you.
Probation Report. Kelly Haley. Good evening.
Good evening. You should have my January report for probation. You can see on the top, we terminated a total of 215 cases. If you're looking at the report, the total number of terminated people should be 183. It says 83. That's a typo I've discovered while I've been sitting here and was reviewing it. So 215 terminated cases for 183 clients. We supervised during the month a total of 1,451 active cases. In our various programs and classes that we facilitate in-house, we had 46 total participants. We had 5 complete those various programs during the month and 5 that were discharged unsuccessfully. I did add 2 new columns to that just to add on some stuff that we do in-house. If you see at the bottom of that middle section, our treatment team members in our office completed 33 drug and alcohol assessments and 6 mental health assessments during the month of January. In the 10 Rocks Recovery Court, we have a current number of 18 participants. With our Olive Branch closet, we were able to help a total of 12 individuals for the month of January. If you look at the bottom on our financial report, for the month of January, we sent $19,605 to be collected in a payment plan, which brings the fiscal year total as of the end of January to $100,948. The amount that we sent that could not be added to a payment plan was $6,426, which brought that fiscal year total to $41,929, and that would be my report for January.
All right, you've heard the report. Do you have questions or a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Your report has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we're waiting for William Cope to come forward, let me tell you, Commissioner James, I was at a dedication of a Revolutionary War soldier Saturday, and they were introducing all the guests out there in the cemetery and who was there, and they introduced the state representatives, and they introduced the mayor and everybody, and they said, and we've got one commissioner out here. And they introduced me and told me what I'd done and all these sort of things. And then the lady standing up there making introductions makes the statement, says, but sometimes he's grumpy before all these people. And I said, that's the first time I've been introduced as a character from Sleeping Beauty. So, you know, you never know how things come across and whatever. Then when I left, got ready to leave, somebody said, you know, you are grumpy every now and then. So I've got to correct my attitude on a lot of different things. So it's just quite interesting. It's the first time I'd ever been introduced that way. And I had to think back on a situation we'd gotten into, and I was sort of grumpy on that deal, and I had to understand that. But, you know, things happen. But everybody remembered me at that dedication, I tell you that. Yes, sir. We're getting ready now for a Correctional Work Center.
I get introduced as that a lot. Chairman, I believe those bananas have ripened that you spoke about earlier. Commissioners, in front of you, you will see your minutes for our February meeting. There's a little more information in there this time because this is our reporting for our accreditation. So there's a little more information than usual in there, but no significant changes. Our next would be our work release program statistics. Work release is going well. We also reached out to a couple of new companies this past week, and we may be partnering with them. Then you'll see our 24-25 yearly activity report. Our population is staying about the same, which is good for recidivism reasons, and you know, it makes for it a little difficult when it comes to putting enough people to work. But we're glad that we're not overcrowded. You'll see our trash report there. State routes, 477 bags collected,
And then on the county roads, they picked up 14,978 pounds of garbage out on the county roads. And then our January monthly worker report showing a combined savings of $62,112 for that month using offender labor. And then after that, it'd be our CQI stats, which is our medical statistics. And then last, for your reading pleasure, you'll see a reentry now under the scope newsletter. And then just before I finish up here, I placed a invitation, and it may be under about a stack and a half of information about some other stuff that we've talked about tonight. But that is for Monday, March 24th. Most of the guys that are in our facility, and ladies also, on a daily basis are involved in either work or educational programming. We require at least 8 hours a day of one or the other, and you know, they stay busy. So occasionally we like to reward them with some sort of a speaker or a presentation, concert, something of that nature. And this gentleman reached out to me through a mutual friend of ours, and he goes around and does these all over the country. So I just wanted to put that out there. You all are invited to that. It's by invitation only, and they will be performing for our residents. And I highlighted the time on there because that's the one that we have room for. If you get a chance, come out and take a listen to this guy. He's really good. And last but not least, I'd like to thank Commissioner James for coming and spending the few hours with us at the facility. It's greatly appreciated anytime that any of you come out and spend some time with us and see what we're about and the differences that we're making in the community. So we appreciate you coming out and spending time with us. And that is my report.
You've heard the report. Questions or motions?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to know if you could explain more. I got some when I was there that day, but more about this May 1st and exactly what a reverse job fair is.
What is it? I'm
sorry.
The
reverse job fair.
Oh, the reverse job fair that we spoke about?
Well, yeah, y'all mentioned it at the reentry thing, and I was just wondering if you could help explain more of what that really is.
Well, the reverse job fair is basically an opportunity to compile employers in our community and allow all of our residents to be able to go and speak to those employers and kind of see what they're about. And it's really about the resident choosing the employer as opposed to vice versa. So it gives them a chance to get out there and talk with these employers and maybe see that there's other things that they're skilled. You know, they have skills that they can use to work with these employers, or something maybe to give them some hope to be able to gain those skills to be able to work with those employers. But we work with a lot of employers in the community, and we do placement with our work release program before people even get out. And most of the time they transition pretty well when they are released into those jobs. And this gives us another outlet for those offenders to be able to find employment once they get out. And if you all know any potential employers, please reach out to my new partner in reentry here, Mr. James, and he can give you those dates and times for that. I'd forgotten what date it was. That's a reentry thing, but that's exactly what it is. So.
It's on the last page of that on the side. That's where I saw it.
There you go.
So you can, for the report, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Motion to approve. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Your report has been approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Juvenile detention, Ms. Lynn Duke.
Good evening. Before you have
the JDC report that you're used to seeing. That includes our minutes from our, excuse me, our January board meeting. Additionally, our activity report. Who's been coming and being released and detained, just charge-wise. And our STD report, and then also our educational and facility report. If you have any questions about any of these particular items, I will happily answer them.
Any questions or a motion? Motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? It has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Emergency Services. Director Chris Clark.
Chairman, hopefully this will be short and sweet. Hopefully in front of you, you have our monthly report from January 1st to January 31st. One thing I'd like to point out is that we had a snow. It was a wet snow. But I'd like to say thank you to Adam Dodd, Bishop Wagner, the mayor, his office, our PIO, Greg Brooks, and all the street and highway departments throughout the county. They did a tremendous job keeping our roads and cleaned off our parking lots and get back to work for the people in Rutherford County to get us back in service. So we've been working a lot on school safety still today, and that's my report.
Okay, sir. We're expecting any more snow?
I hope not. I'm done with winter. Done.
I kept getting reports from you and James Evans, so. All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? It has been approved.
Thank you.
Emergency Medical Service.
Good evening, again. For the month of January, we had a total of 3,842 calls. We had 194 DOAs for the month. 30 of those went for autopsies at a cost of $75,000. We're year-to-date 197 autopsies. We collected $1,018,208. The bottom of that page is the mileage driven and the operating cost. Next page is some in-services and training. Our convalescent division did 380 calls, collected $111,485. And then the next few pages is that more detailed report that's in there every month. And then a thank you letter there at the end. And that's my report.
You've heard the report. Questions or a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a
second.
Approval and a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Your report has been approved. I believe you've got a budget amendment?
Got a budget amendment. We're asking to move $50,000 from patient charges into refunds. That's to transfer into that line item to cover overpayments from insurance companies and patients. We started out the year with about $60,000 in that, but we are having some increased issue with some refunds, and those payments were overpayments that have already been applied in that patient care line item, or patient charges line item.
You've heard the amendment. Motion to approve. Second. And a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Serino?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Beverly? Yes. Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question for Brian real fast, if I may. I'm wondering, as we're looking at the EMS station out there in Smyrna and adding an ambulance out there, and the amount of need that's actually out in the Smyrna, Laverne area. Have we ever had, or do we currently have, an MOU within the town of Smyrna or the city of Laverne to allow us to house one of our ambulances within their current facility, their fire halls or something? That would save us, the county, a lot of funds working with the municipalities. That would be a better benefit for them as their localities as well. And I feel like that'd be a good mix if we haven't already.
We've had those discussions with Smyrna and also Laverne. They were pretty well taken, but Smyrna, as you're aware, Smyrna just built a new fire hall, and there was not room for us. They had already gotten too far in the planning stages. And, you know, the cohabitation is kind of new for us, and it's worked well with county fire because they're county employees. When we start mixing county and municipalities, does it change the relationships? I don't know. But most of those fire stations, and I assume you're talking in the fire station, most of them are built to accommodate their needs, not to add an ambulance and extra sleeping quarters for a crew.
I feel like it would definitely be something to consider as like a leapfrog effect to get to until we get to the moment where we can financially cover getting our own facility and site somewhere somehow, but to help best.
And we have had those discussions. Probably the last couple of years we've had those discussions. It was well taken, but we haven't received an offer for space for an ambulance and a crew.
To add to that, like he said, Smyrna's newest station out on Jefferson Pike, they were so far along in architecture and design, but there is a spot designated on the plat there, so we have some progress there. I just think now that we've started that dialogue, when we start hearing about new stations being built over the next decade, that's when that'll start, the discussions will be had, but who knows what public safety in this county will look like during then. But just know, I've heard directly from them that they're open to it. It's just we got to make sure the timing's correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I was just thinking we need to probably have that as something in the works, constantly in the works, and seeing what we can do. Can't keep affording endless projects, so if we can use some way to help minimize the gaps as we go, and especially somewhere, Laverne or Smyrna, where we know we're heavy in need in that area, would benefit, just to see what we can put together and be ready for.
And one more thing I wanted to mention, I mean, we've already been here for about 3 hours, but Rutherford County EMS received an award this past Wednesday. We were nominated for the ambulance service, ALS Service of the Year, so it was across the state, and we received that award at our TASA conference last Wednesday. So I just wanted to publicly recognize our team, our staff. I mean, I know you guys kind of hear how good our service is, but it was recognized and nominated across the state. So pretty cool experience this past Wednesday. So I just wanted to publicly mention that.
Congratulations. That concludes our agenda. Anything else?
I got something for other business just to consider and see if we can. I was going to mention it under fire rescue, but that kind of spun out on me, so I apologize again for that. Something I've been working on for a little while, and I've gotten some of the other commissioners were working on other projects as well, but this one I was kind of ready to go ahead and bring up, was I'm wanting to find out what we can do to adjust our policy, make sure our policy reads correctly so that our employees, especially our first responders who are required to maintain a certain physical readiness for their task, the job at hand that we require them to do, are covered in the lieu of injuries. My primary focus on this is one to ask that we send a recommendation to steering committee from this body to look into the policy to see what we can do about and asking them to look at when our employees, especially primarily our first responders who are on duty and having to maintain physical readiness by working out, running, lifting weights, etc., succumb to an injury in doing so, twist of an ankle, tear a hamstring, something like that, that they are covered under our with our risk management, that we find a way to make sure that we cover them for that. I look at it as believing that if you are on the clock, if you are on duty, then it is an on-the-job injury. It's not, well, you weren't doing this. I mean, it'd be no different than if they were on duty in their 24, 48-hour shift and fell out of their bed and broke their wrist. It'd be no different, in my opinion. The difference with being the physical readiness of this is it allows these employees to maintain their ability to perform the duties, as well as, it's my belief, that it will minimize the risk long term. A lot of our first responders are younger in the age gap, especially our fire service, and they're coming up that bracket right now where if they don't keep a steady basic maintenance of their physical stamina and performance, they could reach into that moment where they could hurt themselves and be more numbers on FLMA and costing us more money. So, not to mention the personal touch. I don't want to be being stuck in a car accident and EMS can't get the door open and strong enough to do it because they couldn't maintain, or fireman didn't keep his run up and has bad cardio and he's passed out on the floor, dragging me out of a smoke burned building, and now they have to send 2 more and get you. And there's just many different aspects and so forth. So with permission, I'm thinking about, unless there's any objection, I'm thinking about making a motion to send this a request to steering committee to look further into adjusting our policy to include primarily first responders and only when they're on duty, that they will be covered for any type of injury while maintaining their physical readiness, just to protect them so that they can keep a steady performance and that we can rely on countywide.
I see Mr. Elam still sitting back here.
Sounds like a really solid idea. My suggestion would be that it go before HR, and maybe HR could report back the legalities and those type of things before we took it to steering.
Well, that's why I was wanting to go to steering, to let HR and steering kind of dive in, because they usually set the policy and bring it up and set the policy, and that gives us time to get adequate numbers from, like Ed from risk management, to find out and present as well, and gives us that window to see. Even if they want to say table it another month or so, I felt like that was where I felt like we needed to stand up for them to suggest this to happen, but it needs to happen at steering. That's the reason of the way I put the motion that way.
Do you have this written anywhere, or how it follows this direction, or?
Clarify.
Do you have this motion or anything?
To send a positive recommendation to the steering committee for review to cover our first responders for all injuries occurred while on duty as it pertains to maintaining their physical readiness for performance of the duties and responsibilities they're entrusted within.
It's pretty broad, but commissioners?
Probably HR and legal would be good. I mean, if you want steering to look into it, we can ask Sonia and Nick. They'll be there at the meeting. Would you do me a favor then? Do you mind sending an email CCing both of them on exactly what you're looking for, and then we can see if Chairman will put it as an agenda item. But that way they also have a week to prepare for it.
Sure, I can do that. Okay. I'm grasping, trying to figure out what the best course is, because with HR reporting to steering, and they're really making the policy and wanting them to look into it and give their recommendation. I just see a need and trying to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, because steering already has their agenda out for this this next month. It's already out there. What you can do is, if you can send that, copies of it both to Nick and to Sonia, as well as you got 2 members of steering sitting here, and also to Ed Elam. Send him a copy of it too, of what you want to do, and then we can discuss it in some way, or at least get those individuals involved to find out what would be involved here, and then bring it back here to public safety if you want public safety to send it on.
I can do that, yeah.
You think
That's,
that would work?
Bumpers, and we figure out how
well,
we
that
want to
gives me
stay
a little
with
bit better way to get the more proper wording for you guys to digest a little better.
Find out exactly what's involved and what can be done, you know, where it would be.
Okay. Yeah, I'll work on that. I'll get that. I'll add all of public safety and all of steering on that email as well, just so they kind of, I don't want to circumvent their committee on the process. So that's where kind of my back and forth pause, is this the right way, et cetera. So we'll definitely go that approach and take that
I think that would be the better way. Anything else? Appreciate you, gentlemen, for this long night. We are adjourned.